Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Surface Interval. Today, we're gonna talk about dry suit diving. Yes. If you know me already, you know that I am diving with a dry suit since a couple of months already, and I'm here to share my very first dive with you and my own experience with a dry suit. I know that some of you are actually dry suit divers or dry suit certified, and I also know that many of you are not, but are thinking about getting certified or getting your very first dry suit. So let's talk about it. I think before starting a dry suit certification or before getting your own dry suit, it's important to see if it's actually worth it because it can be really expensive to get everything you need and a dry suit itself for a dry suit dive. So that's also the reason why I didn't dive with a dry suit before last year, actually. It's a really new thing also for me. And I've been diving since when I'm a little kid. You know this. I didn't really have a choice because I come from a family where everybody is diving. So, of course, my father, as a kids instructor, the first thing he did when he got his own children was teaching us to dive, which I really appreciate now. But it wasn't always like this. And the reason is the cold. Now, if you don't know me, I am a scuba diver based in Switzerland. So I do most of my dives in lakes in cold water. And we're talking about really cold water, like at the bottom, 4 degrees, 6 degrees maximum Celsius, of course. I don't know how much is this in Fahrenheit, sorry. And even if it can get really warm in summer outside, and the surface can trick you because it's can get also 20, 25 degrees Celsius. As soon as you dive a bit and pass the like 20, 30 meters max, you are gonna have the same temperature that you have in the lake in winter. So you really have this different layers in the lake in summer where up it's really warm and down there it's really cold. And of course, when you train, especially for more advanced certifications, you have to search a bit the depth because you need to train to go deeper and you need to train certain exercises, how to deal with difficult situations at a certain depth. So, of course, we were always in cold water. And I would like to add, my instructors always had this beautiful idea to dive and train in winter because in winter we have the best visibility. So, yeah, it was cold already at the surface. So actually, I was a bit traumatized by scuba diving as a kid, if I think about it now. I like diving and I loved to do it at the sea and I love to see the fish and the colors in warm waters. But I hated the cold. That's no secret. But as I said, all my certification I had to do where there was water, and that was Switzerland for me. So I did my certifications in wetsuits in winter in Switzerland. And trust me, that was cold. So, up to 2 years ago, 1 year ago, max, I was diving all year round in Switzerland with wetsuits. And of course, we're talking about thick wetsuits. And with the time, I also got a semi dry suit. So, it was already much better. But I never dived dry, and this is a new experience I had some months ago, like last year, and I'm here to share this with you now. The idea is that you can really think about this if you are not dry suit certified or you don't have a dry suit. We will see later you don't actually need a certification to do that. Maybe you are just half considering it because it's really expensive and you don't really know what to expect. So we're gonna talk about all the advantages and disadvantages of dry suit diving so you can make your own idea of how diving with a dry suit is. As I said, it was actually not so long ago I got my first dry suit. So I would say I wasn't new to diving and I was already certified. I was already a nitrox diver and I was about to start my advanced skill certification by CMOS. One thing you need to know about the certification, there are two very similar. One is the advanced skill, one is the tech skills. And for the advanced skill, it's not mandatory, but it's suggested to use a dry suit and use a full techie setup. So I decided to go for it, and I thought maybe now I'm old enough to buy a dry suit and be able to enjoy this a bit more. I'm getting old and getting lazy. I deserve a bit of warmth in my dives. I had two options. One was to try a dry suit and then decide, and one was to just directly get one and go for it. I suggest you to try from somebody that is maybe the same size and the same body shape as you are before to make yourself an idea. But in my case, I went straight for a dry suit and I bought it because, first of all, dry suits really need to be shaped for you. If you just have the smallest leak, you're gonna have a nightmare, not a good dive, trust me. And the second point is I knew I anyway needed to start diving dry because I don't know, I don't have the hormones I had as a teenager, I guess, and I am cold in winter, also outside the water, so no way. I needed to get a dry suit. I went to the dive shop and they took all my sizes from wrist, neck, everything. They just measure everything because, as I said, it really needs to fit you perfectly. And they ordered the suit, then it arrived. And I did my very first dive. It was a weird feeling. I tried many suits in my life, but never a dry suit, and the feeling is so different. I was already psychologically ready when jumping in to feel the cold water on my feet, on my hands, and like sliding down, entering from your neck and going down all your back. That didn't happen. And my feet were warm, and this was the best feeling I had. I can still feel the emotion. I was just there, I jumped in the water and my feet were warm and dry, and this was amazing. I loved the feeling. But then of course I realized immediately there were some changes, not only in the setup but also on how you feel underwater. For example, after jumping in, I was basically standing in the water, and I had the fins already, so it was just finning a bit. There were some meters below me, so I didn't damage anything, don't worry. And I'm there standing in the water, and I really feel like the upper part of my body is so full of air. I, I just looked like a balloon, and my feet were squeezed together from the suit. So just this, I'm not this big, I'm like 1 meter something. Just this meter difference in the water squeezed my feet and made my whole suit like full with gas at the surface, and it was super weird. So you really need to learn how to stay horizontal when you're wearing a dry suit, because otherwise you're just gonna feel the complete opposite on the opposite side of your body. And then of course we're dealing with a suit that is filled with gas, and you know better than me what gas makes underwater. When the pressure changes, but you need to deal with that too. And this time you're not just dealing with your obesity, you're dealing with your obesity and your dry suit. So you have a little button on your chest that you can press to inject gas from your tanks directly. And that button, in the beginning, you press slowly, and then you start understanding you need to press more the more you descend. Okay, everything cool. But then it gets an addiction. Because every time you push that little button, some air comes in, and air is much I mean, if you're diving with air, otherwise nitrox, of course. So like some gas comes in, and gas is warmer than the water. So as soon as you start feeling a bit cold, you just want to press that button and get the little warm shot. But yeah, you cannot do it too much because otherwise you're just gonna go up. Already by staying horizontal, I mean, I'm doing my best, of course, but staying horizontal, let's say like this, in the water with your feet up, like trying to imitate my instructor. If your feet are too much up and you have too much gas in your suit, you would just like turn in a handstand and go up. So you really need like to manage this whole new situation with this two different piece of gear that are filled with gas, your PCD that you already know how to use, of course, and your dry suit. So the first experience was amazing. It was such a weird feeling and I had so much fun. But my suggestion to you, if you never did this before, go with someone really just to try out the suit. Don't go with a new dry suit that you never tried before for a dive where you want to go, I don't know, 40 meters deep, or even make a deco dive with all the difficulties that comes with it. Just plan a very shallow dive. Like, you don't need to go deep, go to 10 meters, learn how to use your gear, learn how to use and balance your BCD with your dry suit now, because you can also not just use one of them. You cannot just use the suit because it deflates much slower than the BCD. So, like, you need to find a good balance between the two of them. So, go train this first with somebody that knows what they're doing, somebody that has a dry suit that can handle that, and you, in case you don't manage, just enjoy it, and then you will learn it pretty fast. I'm sure next time you can directly go for a entertainment dive. I said before, you don't really need to be certified to dive with a dry suit, and that's partially true. Like, for example, depending also on your certification agency, I am CMAS, so it's basically already integrated in the last certification. Basically, all certification agency like CMAS, SSI, PADI, blah blah blah, they all offer a specialty, a certification that you can do to dive with a dry suit. But to dive with a dry suit, you don't actually need it. You just need to learn it. So if you don't have someone that can teach you properly and in all safety, I would suggest you to go for the certification so that you're sure you're not doing anything wrong and, of course, nothing dangerous. Otherwise, you can also try out with your buddy. For me, it was a bit easier, of course, because my father is a Drysuit diver, and as I said, he's also an instructor, so he could just safely bring me to try it out. What I realized, I thought in the beginning, if I get a dry suit, it doesn't mean that I will just dive with a dry suit and won't use my wetsuits anymore. Well, I was wrong. No one kidding, I still use them, but so much less. Yeah, that's the risk. You're gonna get addicted. Even at the sea in Italy, when I went to Liguria, the water was warm. I could have easily done that with a thick wetsuit. But why should I? I became so lazy. Now that I know the confidence of diving with a dry suit, even though I love the feeling of water on my skin, as soon as the temperature is a bit below a certain range, I'm gonna go with the dry suit. I'm getting old. I hope I could help some of you make the right decision. My opinion is, if you think you're gonna need it, even just from time to time, it's an investment worth doing, because a dry suit lasts you several years, and I think once you have it, you use it even more. So, yeah. My opinion is go for it, but I understand that it's a big investment, especially if you don't really use it. So if it's just for going once, maybe it's better to rent it, even though it could be more tricky to find something that really fits your body shape. It was so nice talking to you guys and telling you about my very first dry suit diving experience. I never shared it with anyone, actually, so you're the first one hearing it. And I can't wait to talk to you next Friday. See you.